Well, I'm just checking to make sure the tissues are up here. Okay, good. Asha, that was perfect. It was the perfect song. And I can't tell you how good it is to be back here and to see all your smiling faces. I have missed you all very, very much. And I've missed being here. It has been a pleasure to be out in Denver. I had a good time out there. Well, I had a great time out there. I hiked. I got to know my 3-year-old granddaughter, and now she's 4. And for those of you who know 3- and 4-year-old kids, they are a trip and a great fun experience to have. So it was wonderful to be out there with them, with my daughters, both my son-in-laws, sons-in-law, and all of their family. It just was amazing. It was amazing, an amazing experience, and I'm very grateful for it. But then things change, you know. You go out there, you think you're going to stay, and things change, and energies shift, and suddenly it's time to come back to Atlanta, and I'm glad to be back here. I missed everybody. I missed all of you, and my sweetheart, of course, and that's all I'll say about that. So, you know, we're happy. We're a happy girl. I'm a happy girl. So, resilience is the topic today, and I picked that little piece from Kitchen Table Wisdom, because called Eat the Cookie. Because of that last line, life is the cookie. I love that line, and I love that that line represents for me a shift of perspective and a shift of consciousness, really, when we can get to a place where we realize that life is the cookie, rather than what's going on in life or what box we put around what life is supposed to be like. That is a shift in consciousness. But more often, our life is a practice of the other way, of figuring out what we want the cookie to look like, exactly what kind of cookie do we want, and trying to find it, get it, and keep it, just like the author spoke about. So, if life is the cookie, then what are we supposed to do with all of these crumbs? What are we supposed to do with the messy parts that still seem to pop up in life, no matter how many Hay House books we've read? Okay? So, you know, things are still going to happen. The car is still going to break down. Political leaders are still going to disappoint us. Tornadoes are still going to happen in various places. Natural disasters are going to happen. Houses are going to catch on fire from time to time. And let me just say thank you for sending funds and helping out when the fire hit the house. These things are going to happen. They happen in life. They happen in all of our lives from time to time. So life itself is this experience we're having of life is an energy expressing through us. Life is expressing through us and as us and through all of the things around us, through all of the events and all of the circumstances that go on in our life. And life is evolving. It is evolving. It's an ever-continuous event of evolution and unfolding and growth. It's not always easy to see this, especially when we're caught up in what's going on in our life at the particular moment. It's not always easy to see that evolutionary process. However, it shows up and it happens in various examples, either more quickly or more slowly, from bacteria evolving and shifting and changing in relation to medications, to our consciousness shifting and growing. So it's not only just about the slow evolutionary process of the physical body, but there are various speeds and types of evolution going on. Now, one of the things about evolution is that it is spurred by adversity. It's spurred by adversity. Sometimes this process is messy. Adaptation to adversity sparks that evolutionary process. So when we are able to adapt to the adversity in our lives, that moves evolution along in our consciousness. So this brings us to the topic of resilience. Because when I look around, first of all, resilience is a huge topic. Resilience shows up in a great number of places. And there is a lot of information out on the internet and in various books about resiliency. The wonderful work that Ginger's folks are doing is teaching resiliency to these young women, and it spreads in a ripple effect into their greater community. There's a lot of work being done with youth in high-risk youth in various neighborhoods, areas that have been hit by natural disasters, all of these things. There are resilience activities going on. So there's a lot of great information out there about resilience. We're going to look at resilience with the definition of as resilience being the ability to recover readily or adjust easily to adversity. When we're in the midst of one of life's messy moments, we have a precious opportunity to adapt and evolve through that resilience. But it's not easy to just automatically do that. It's not the first thing you think of when a tragedy strikes, when you have to let go of someone or a friend, animal or not, 4-footed, 2-footed, furry, or skinned, that we have to let go of. We don't necessarily think of the word resilience. However, that process of getting through these troubles is very important to us. If we can develop some skills along the way, my old favorite saying, practice when it's easy so it's easy when it's hard, right? So if we can practice some of these skills along the way, then they'll be available to us when those tough times happen. And it gets to a place where it just becomes second nature to bounce back, not necessarily to where you were before. It's not about things being exactly the same as they were before. It's about transforming through the event and through the experience and becoming more of who you are called to be through the experience and beyond. Let's say it that way. Through the experience and beyond. Whatever that challenge might be it a lost job, be it a lost loved one, be it as simply not freaking out when your car doesn't start. So today we're going to look at some of these skills that we can use to build resilience and to assist us in the overall evolution of our consciousness. We're going to look through the lens of knowing and growing. There's stuff we need to know, and there's stuff we need to grow. So we're going to start with knowing and growing some things about ourselves. So let's start with everybody's favorite place within, the shadow. Might as well. Let's just start there. So what in the world, how is the shadow going to help us with resilience? Well, I will tell you, your shadow has gifts. And if you've ever done any shadow work, that's one of the things that you will be taught and be encouraged to learn, is that the shadow has certain gifts. Debbie Ford tells a great story of this in her talks. You can see her speak about it. It's one of her formational pieces when she decided to begin her lifelong work in shadow work and uncovering the shadow. So if you look and you get to know your shadow and can look at what your gifts are with that shadow, these things can come about and help you later on. For example, you might wonder, well, how is the shadow going to have any gifts at all? Well, your shadow, the gifts of your shadow might have to do with standing up for yourself. Okay? In her example, she uses some colorful language that I'm not going to use since we have a video going. Otherwise, trust me, I'd say it. But so she learned in her story, when confronted with this part of herself that she did not want to see, well, then the person that confronted her with that turned around and said, well, look at, what is that part of you, how does that part of you help you? What do you get from having that aspect of yourself? And she realized, wow, it stands up for me. It makes sure that I get what I'm due and not give away what I need to take care of myself. So there are various things about your shadow that can help you. Perhaps you tend to be real OCD, or referred to as anal retentive sometimes, okay? And so maybe that's a part of your shadow as well. Well, the gifts of that are attention to detail. When you can look at that, instead of denying that you have that part of yourself, when you can look at it honestly, you can see, oh, well, I have a really good eye for detail. So this might come up and be helpful in a difficult situation where you might be looking for some resilience and a way to bounce back. I know that my daughter, in dealing with the stuff going on from the house fire, she has had to pay attention to detail with contracts, with dealing with all the contractors working on her house. And these attentions to detail are helpful for her and are allowing her to bounce back in good and helpful ways. You also want to know what the downfalls of your shadow are, so you can watch out for it, so you don't fly off the handle at inappropriate times and perhaps bite the hand that's about to feed you. If you're about to receive assistance from someone, you want to be able to receive that assistance, not be so irritated and upset in your shadow that you fail to receive what is helpful and what is supportive, or the progress that you need during a time of challenge or change. So you want to know your shadow. Get to know your shadow. She or he is your friend behind all of that bad publicity that the shadow gets. It's your friend. We also want to grow. We want to grow our worldview. Now, your worldview is basically the way you look at the world. It's a set of ideas or beliefs, and we hear about beliefs and changing or growing our beliefs all the time. But specifically, I want to look at a couple of different forms of this. If we can shift from the view of accumulating stuff and that worldview of accumulating wealth, not that there's anything wrong with wealth or stuff, but the worldview of accumulating it, shift that to a worldview of quality of life, there's a difference. Do you see? Do you see how there's a difference between those two things? Now, sometimes our stuff adds to our quality of life. But if our worldview is that our quality of life is dependent upon our stuff, then we set ourselves up for failure. We set ourselves up for not having that ability to bounce back, no matter what might happen. So shifting from that accumulating stuff to a quality of life can be a very helpful stance to take. Shifting from the idea that adversity is bad to shifting to the idea that adversity exercises skill can be a helpful worldview to take. So follow me on that. Adversity is bad becomes adversity is an opportunity to exercise my skills. And so I'm going to give you a little example of this. We would never think to walk, well, we might, but just bear with me here. We wouldn't think to walk into the gym and say, what are all these weights doing here? Get rid of these weights. They're heavy. These weights are heavy. What are they doing here? I just stubbed my toe on this machine. No, that's what they're there for, right? That's what they're there for. You lift the weights to build the muscle. Well, in a way, we're here in a big giant gym, and the stuff that happens can be looked at as an opportunity to develop skill. Developing skill. These skills that we're talking about, and the skills of patience and forgiveness and all those fun things that we joke about never asking for, but really we're here to develop. Courage. And being brave. It would be easy to be brave if there was nothing scary out there, right? So we want to shift from adversity is bad to adversity exercises skill. We also want to shift from the idea of controlling life to creating an experience. okay? And we create experience in the present moment. A lot of times we can get caught up in the idea of, why did this happen to me? Or, in New Thought terms, how did I attract this? Which is the same thing as, why did this happen to me? And that idea of, if I can only get it right, I can control what shows up in my life. And it's not about that. It's about growing a new experience and creating or co-creating that experience in the present moment. What can I bring to this present moment to bring beauty to it? And again, it's wonderful to have Ginger here with this, because I'm seeing so much beauty when I look back at this little booth in the back here. And I have my bracelet on that I picked up before the service because it matched my outfit perfectly, of course. You know, I love it when the plane comes together. So, all right, there we go. So the finding beauty in the present moment is huge. And it's a skill that we can develop and grow. It's not as easy to do in those hard moments if you don't do it when it's easy. So when you're driving down the street, notice the beauty, find the good things you can bring into the line at the grocery store. And then that skill is available to you when a hard time hits, whatever that hard time might be. So we go back to knowing. You want to know your individual protective factors. And I want to refer you to your bulletin. We put a little insert in your bulletin. And on one side of that page, it says your individual protective factors. Pull mine out here. This came from one of those wonderful internet resources. This came from Resiliency.com. An article written by Nan Henderson, Hardwired to Bounce Back. And take this with you today and walk through the exercises on this. She encourages us to look at this list, and when faced with a crisis, ask the following question. When faced with a crisis or major life difficulty, which of these do you use most often? So there's going to be a couple of these, 3 or 4 of these that come the easiest to you. You want to develop those skills. Know this about yourself. And that way, if humor is one of your skills in this area, you won't be kicking yourself for using humor. It's a legitimate skill. Now, sometimes humor is inappropriate, we know that, but hey, it's a legitimate skill that you can use to help you get through some things. Service to others, your relationships, knowing your inner direction, flexibility. I have found that's one of my key skills in this area, flexibility. It has been tremendously helpful to me to be able to go with the flow, because the flow shifts and changes. So take that with you and take a look at it and get to know yourself in a better way. I love the idea of knowing yourself to the best extent you possibly can, in all different shapes and forms, up one side and down the other. Know yourself. Know which of these resiliency builders are your key ones, and then use them. Call on them freely. We want to grow our coping skills. So on the back side of that is a friendly little list. It starts out, this actually came from The Turning Point by Greg Braden, Creating Resilience in Times of Extremes. And at the top of that page, it has a partial list of symptoms of unhealthy coping skills. So I want to invite you to be honest with yourself as you look through these things. You can do it, and I'm not going to call anybody out, just in the privacy of your own home and your own prayer time. Look at these things and be honest about it. How are you turning to food when you're not hungry? Are you numbing yourself with various forms of substances? What are you, be honest with yourself and get to know yourself a little better. It's not about kicking your own behind around this. It's about knowing yourself. And then look at the bottom half of the page and look at developing healthy skills to replace the unhealthy skills. So I want to invite you to pick 2 or 3 of these and begin to work on them. Just set the intention of working on them over the next, the winter. Use the winter time to work on a few of those skills. Coping in times of difficulty is very important. It's a big part of resiliency. How do I turn this around? Being healthy is a big part of that. Getting enough sleep, doing your homework to prepare for any meetings or various things that might have to do with the difficulty that you're facing. So grow your coping skills. We go back to knowing. Know yourself around the ideas of what nourishes you. Do you know what nourishes you? And if you do, then the next question is, well, are you doing that? And when I say what nourishes you, I'm talking about what nourishes your soul, what nourishes your spirit. For me, one of my big nourishments in soul and spirit is spending time in nature. And I can't tell you how long I knew that before I actually practiced it. Because I didn't have the time, or whatever the many excuses can be. I didn't feel worthy of the nourishment, I suppose. But once you figure out what your nourishments are, take the time to do it. Fill it into your schedule to take that walk in nature. Maybe you are a creative soul and it's important to you to write music or to play music or to paint. The point isn't to paint a portrait that's going to sell. The point is to paint something that makes your heart soar. Sing something that makes your heart soar. Do something that lets that energy of spirit flow through you, because that nourishes you. That will help. That will sustain you. It'll bank up the energy so that you have that energy when you need it, when times are hard. You also want to grow your faith. Grow your faith and your connection with the divine. Part of that is through knowing what those steps are, but it also has to do with knowing what faith means to you. Finding that place within you where faith and patience come and stand hand in hand. Faith and patience go hand in hand. So increasing that connection through prayer and meditation builds that energy up within you. The Tao Te Ching asks us, do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises all by itself? I love that little piece because it reminds us that we don't have to always be doing something. So sometimes when there's a moment of tragedy or challenge, the ego wants to get busy right away and do something, even if it's wrong. So this is calling us to be still. Be still and go within. Be still and know that I am God. Find that place of stillness and then let the right action arise on its own. This can be very helpful in times of struggle or trouble or challenge or even just change. Just being able to be still. Faith in a power greater than ourselves is the key to powerful resilience. So having that ability to release and let go and surrender to the moment and know that there's a plan greater than my little mind can come up with, just releasing into that, in that place of faith, allows that resilience to come up. So not only do we need to know and grow ourselves to develop resilience and adapt to adversity, we also benefit from knowing and growing our communities And you all are so blessed here at One World. And I want to say, we are so blessed here at One World to have that community and to know each other. I want to invite you to look at expanding that community. It can be really easy to get into the daily rut of just talking to the same people at work, even at church, anywhere in life, just always going to the same people, going to the same place, doing the same things. I want to invite you to talk to people you don't know. You may one day be able to be a part of their resilience, or they may be a part of your resilience. That's not why we're doing it, but that's one of the side benefits of increasing your community and getting to know people beyond. It also helps your brain grow. Knowing new people creates, meeting new faces, getting to know people's story and who they are, creates new brain cells, new connections in your brain. So even doing that allows more information to flow. You become available and open to all these infinite possibilities that we so frequently talk about. All these infinite possibilities that surround us are only as good as our receivers are to hear them and act on them. So meeting new people opens up new avenues of expression and new avenues of possibility. Look for new activities to get involved with that involve meeting new people. Join a new club. Find a new place to volunteer some time. Take new classes, different workshops and things like that. Or join a support group for whatever. We all have something. We all got something we should be in a support group for, trust me. So find one of these avenues to meet new people and expand that community. Because then you also are a shining light in that environment, and people are like, wow, she sure looks happy. He sure has a lot going for him. I wonder where he goes to church. And then they follow you back here to church. Isn't that cool? We love it when that happens. So developing a strong network of connections strengthens your resiliency, and it increases your quality of life. As I was talking about before, it's not just about controlling life or accumulating stuff, but it's about increasing that quality of life in the present moment. We can choose to develop resiliency every day by actively and consciously knowing and growing in all of these various forms. Trying to control life so that we never lose our cookies isn't a very effective way, and it doesn't support our evolution. But by growing in resilience and knowing that life is the cookie, we can grow in resilience and develop in that way. And so I want to invite us now to just take these thoughts. Where'd our guys go? There they are. Yeah, there they are. Come on back. We're going to do a few moments of prayer and meditation around some of these ideas.